Hello, I'm Rob. This is another results tutorial. Lords, ladies, welcome back, welcome back. This week we are continuing our journey with the Fellowship of the Rings expansion from Games Workshop's Lord of the Rings strategy game featuring Boromir of Gondor. Hey, you want to learn how to win a free $25 Amazon gift card? Stick around to the end of the video and I'll let you know how. So after priming our model in some gray, we'll first start off with some heavy red from Vallejo's extra opaque line. This will be used to cover the underlayer of the clothing on the arms and the lower front area, that little tabard looking thing in the front there. Now, as always, please do remember to thin your paints down with a little water or your favorite thinning mediums. For the second stage of this area, we're going to be adding in a medium tone red to the previous color. For that, I am using Vallejo Flat Red. As the previous color is to be considered our base, this could be considered our first layer, and so we need to make sure we leave some of that previous showing in the deepest recesses of the folds on the tabard and under the arms. After letting that dry for a minute, we will continue our layering, this time with some straight flat red. Again, when layering, we want to cover less and less of the previous areas with paint, so to obtain nice even blends and avoid giant leaps in color. One way to achieve this is to thin your paints down a little more than normal and gradually build up these areas where you want the color to be brightest. And a quick last highlight on this cloth area. This time we're going to be adding in some Scarlet red to the flat red, and we're aiming for the higher points of the folds of the clothing, including any areas where the clothing would go over a knee or an elbow especially. For the skin, you could use a beige red, or as I have here, a heavy skin tone. Remember, these extra opaque paints are a little thick, and if you're going to use them, especially on faces, they need to be thinned down fairly well so as not to obscure any of the finer details. After that, we can add some basic skin tone into either our beige red or our heavy skin tone, whichever one you chose to go with. And using a detail brush, start highlighting the face. We're aiming for the nose, the forehead, and the cheekbones. Trying not to cover the entire face in this, and leave the heavy skin tone showing in the deepest recesses. Another quick highlight, this time using straight basic skin tone, aiming more for the lower half of the nose, tops of the cheekbones, and right above the brow area. Starting on the hair, I've decided to give my Boromir brown hair, and for that I am using Beastie Brown. This is not a very dark color, and it does a decent job of, after being shaded, of giving that darker brown color sometimes you want for people with brown hair. And also, do not forget, he's got some facial hair on that face of his. To highlight this, we want to choose a lighter brown color, not something too bright, but something a little earthy. And for that, I'm using Earth from Vallejo Game Color. Remember, the best way to highlight just about any color of hair is to use a smaller detail brush, then your paint down. Load your brush up just before you take the brush to the head, touch it to a towel or something to get off all the extra moisture, and you're going to want to start in the center of the crown, work your way out, down the side of the head from the center. Almost everyone's hair will be lighter in that area just due to general thinness and object source lighting from the sun. For metallics, I like to mix in a little bit of black normally in my, my silver or my steels. It just allows them to go down sometimes easier. And also, they can be a little finicky, and they like to dry out on your brush. And generally just adding water to it doesn't help any with that issue. Also, when it comes to metal areas, I generally tell everybody to base that area in solid black, to which I seem to have forgotten my own rules here. So I ended up covering up all these areas, so you can go ahead and feel free to skip this step. Remember, I am here to make mistakes, so you do not have to. And as old Grandpappy used to say, son, do as I say, not as I do. Speaking of black paint, grab yourself a pot of black paint and start covering all those areas not covered and those areas that I already covered in steel. This will include the sword, shield, boots, gloves, and the outer robe, cloak, garment type deal that he's wearing. For the outer garment, including his gloves and boots, I did this blend of black and white on my palette. If you're not sure what I mean by that, basically take a drop of black and a drop of white paint, put them on your palette, and you're going to leave space in between them. The space needs to be about 1 to 2 drops of paint wide. Then in that space, draw out a little black towards the white and white towards the black so that they mix together in the middle. Now you're going to want to get your brush get a little bit of water on your brush, not too much here, and starting from either end, begin mixing the paint together. You should end up with this mixture that goes from solid black to solid white, with the area in the middle containing different shades of gray. Now for the actual painting, I did this a little backwards. I was thinking that I'd block an area where my blend was going to go in, and you might want to do your blends first and then edge highlight, as it'll be easier and you'll get the better color that you were looking for. Remember, do not go too high towards the white, as the garment's supposed to be black. You could, though, alternatively just use 2 or 3 shades of, say a black, dark gray, medium gray, and just save yourself a lot of hassle and time. But this is a really great way to practice doing blends and shades, which will help you later if you ever want to try and do non-metallic metal. If you're curious what that is, it's simply that you do metallic colors without using metal paints. For the shield, the belt, and I also believe the sword sheath, I gave all those areas a coverage of heavy sienna. I like this color. It seems to give a good base on a mid to dark brown. It looks great, and it covers black very well. To give the belt some highlights, use a mid-tone brown, such as Beastie Brown, the same thing that we did on his hair, hitting all the the highest areas. And I believe I also use this to give the shield a highlight on the top and the bottom, the top above the centerpiece, and on the bottom closer to the bottom edge of the shield. For the horn of Gondor, we are going to color the bone areas in a color similar to a Shati bone. There's 2 areas with a metal section separating them, so do your best to try and leave that area in black. After that, you can shade the horn in some Agrex Earthshade and highlight it using a lighter bone color, such as something like a Screaming Skull. So for the metal bands on the horn, shield, seams of his robe, and sleeve areas, we're going to want to use a decent mid dark tone gold. For that, I've mixed just a brush tip or so of black in this Glorious Gold. You don't want to put too much black in because the black will really just overpower this, just about any gold color you put it into. Also, depending on the temperament of your paints you're using in the area you live in, it's generally wise to add some sort of thinning medium to your metallics. These will help thin your paints, but the mediums usually act as a drying retardant. So, as I was saying before, metallics have a tendency to dry out really fast, and they can create these giant globs of funk on the end of your brush. So for the horn area, we're going to paint the 2 areas that we didn't do in bone. One is towards the top, where the opening in the horn would be, and the other one's separating the bone sections. And also, if you look at movie stills for Boromir, when he's in Rivendell and stuff, you can see glints of gold on his clothing. This runs the entire outside seam of the red robe, including his sleeves, which also seem to have these little star-shaped patterns. If you have a short-haired brush that's all frayed out that you really don't use anymore, this would work really great in those sleeve areas. Just put a little bit of gold on your brush, wipe a lot of it off, and then just touch it. And just allow the normal frayed ends of the brush to do this work for you. And there's also this little gold ring going around the center of the shield where the metal and the wood meets. Just do your best not to spill it onto the wood, but don't too worry much about the dome piece. And to highlight the horn, we can add some silver or steel to our gold, but as before with the black, just don't add too much because they can really overpower these yellows. Don't worry about highlighting the clothing areas. And then for the dome piece, just the banding on the outside of the shield, the sword. We want to use some steel or your other favorite metallics, a different metallic paint that you like, and just do your best to leave some of the areas in shadow, the spots, we don't want to be shiny. To add some depth to the miniature, we need to do some shading, which we will be diluting with some, thinning medium, water, and flow improver to help this stuff find the recesses a lot better. For the face area, we're going to be using some, your favorite type of flesh shade. You could use some Riking flesh shade from GW. This is a pretty small area, so you might need to let it sit for a minute or two so it can dry, and move on to another area. For the hair, you might want to consider mixing like 2 drops of brown to a drop of black shade. Don't forget about the little patch of fur on his face. For the shield, the sword, outer robe, you can just use the same mixture from the hair, maybe adding another drop or 2 of black to darken it down. The inner robe, take some black and add it to your red shades, then hit the arms and the front sections. Also, so apparently I lost all the footage after the shade dried, where I went back and cleaned up any sections that required it. So after basing your miniature from here, don't forget to seal him with a matte varnish, either from a rattle can or an airbrush. Doing this will not only help protect him in future battles, but it also does really a great job of blending all your colors together, and it makes them all uniform. And here we are, Boromir of Gondor from Games Workshop's Lord of the Rings strategy game. Remember, everyone who is subscribed or subscribes to my channel and then leaves a comment on this or any of the other videos that I post in the month of August has a chance to win a $25 Amazon gift card, good towards your next hobby adventure. In the description below, you can find affiliate links to the paints that I used in this video. Using these links while shopping is a great way to support my channel without costing you any extra whatsoever. You do not even have to purchase the item I link. Just make sure you check out before you close out your browser when shopping on Amazon. You could also choose to head over to patreon.com and sign up there, where you are automatically entered to win miniatures or other promotional items, such as the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring expansion pack. As always, if you like this video and want to see more, click like, subscribe, and share below to help my channel grow. Thank you for watching, and join me next time as I paint Robb Stark from Coal Mini or Nuts, A Song of Fire and Ice.